Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Richmond Common Council meeting for July the 7th. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Remain standing for a prayer by Councilor Burkhart. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for this evening that you've given us to gather here. God, tonight I want to bring top of mind the victims of the Texas flooding and the loss there, that our thoughts and our hearts are with them. Our thoughts and our hearts are with the folks of this community as well, suffering from loss, hardships, tragedy. God, just wrap your arms around all those that need it. Give us wisdom. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Doug Goss.
Here.
Lucinda Wright.
Present.
Bill Lingle.
Here.
Larry Parker.
Here.
Ann Taylor.
Here.
Gary Turner.
Here.
Jane Bumbalow.
Here.
Justin Burkhart.
Here.
And Jerry Purcell.
Here.
All are present.
Thank you. We're going to table the minutes for this evening. Any resolutions, petitions, memorials, or complaints to come forward at this time? Hearing none. Communications from the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Earlier today, we started the first pass budget meetings with 4 council members were there. I appreciate their support in coming in. The controller used, for the first time, she used the circuit breaker tax caps to put in the first pass of the budget. Last year, it was something she added at the end. So it looks like, if you look at the first pass of the budget that just came out this morning, it looks like the general fund is out of balance by $3 million. But one of the things you have to look at is she was using the 2025 circuit breaker tax caps, which always comes out in April of a given year. The DLGF in its July 2nd notice said that we will have the 2026 estimates on July 31st. And again, even that's just an estimate. The May of 2026, we'll get the actual estimate, just like a final estimate, just like we did this year. The final estimate always comes out the month before taxes are due. One thing to note is that MLGQ, maximum levy growth quotient, not C, will be 4% again for 2026, which will significantly reduce that $3 million gap, probably likely closer to $1.5 million as usual for our first pass. Seems like in years past, we're always about $1.5 million, $2 million off. So my guess is that's where we'll end up, but we'll know more after July 31st when they send that report. Right now, we're still just dealing with super rough estimates. I know last year, it was even later. It was later in the year when we got to 70 to 82, 3 notices from the DLGF. So it's really hard at this time to make any conclusions or any adjustments. But as long as they get them to us by July 31st before the committee of the whole, that's what really matters. Before we really go and do the final tweaks and committee of the whole before it comes to council as an ordinance on first reading in September or October. A couple other things to note. NDOT has closed the Cardinal Greenway between Industries Road and Wayne Road for the Revive I-70 project because they're working on that overpass. That section of the Greenway should be open later this year, so cyclists who want to travel north on the Greenway are recommended to start north of I-70 at that drop-off point. I believe it's Tingler Road is the next one north. NDOT also wants to remind motorists that the 55-mile-per-hour speed limit through the 20 miles of the Revive I-70 construction zone will be in place for the duration of the project for the whole 20 miles, so watch out for that. American Legion fireworks, I think, were a resounding success Saturday night. Had a great crowd, some of the best fireworks I've ever seen. They met their fundraising goals right before then, thanks to a stage sponsor that came in at the last minute. So soon, after they finish their other fireworks coming up the next couple of weeks, they're still doing that. We'll start fundraising for 2026, which, as you know, is our nation's 250th birthday, so we're looking for a big bang, a big show next year. I think the band did a pretty good job this year. The crowd was pretty good. Our police department did a great job. I think we had 16 officers out there. We had 4 firefighters in grass trucks. I think we had 1 small grass fire. We had 2 on an ambulance and on that side-by-side. I know we had 1 young lady who kind of had a heat exhaustion. She was pregnant with twins, and we were able to help her out. And there was a motor vehicle accident afterwards, and I was told that often happens on Grand Boulevard. So if you're like me, we'll plan your exit route differently than Grand Boulevard, because they told me that happened last year too at the same intersection. Anyways, slow down, people. All right, so tonight we have Guide Studio is going to come up and talk about branding. You may recall that from goal number 3 in our 2019 city's comprehensive plan was, I'll get it out here, was community identity, processes, and procedures. So since 2019, even though I've only had this administration for a year and a half and time on council, we were working through all these goals: land use, housing and neighborhoods, parks and rec, et cetera. We're excited to say that we've pretty much checked off every part of goal number 3. So as we go forward with the comprehensive plan refreshment, goal number 3 will naturally change. The last piece of goal number 3, of course, was a community identity piece, which is branding. And earlier this year, we partnered with Guide Studio. They have extensive experience in branding and bringing out a community identity in an entire city. And I would like to bring Erica and Molly up, and they have a presentation for you. Sorry. Let me get out of this, and I'll get their presentation ready. Oops. Let me do that just yet. There you go. You want the first slide?
Hello, everybody. I'm Erica Deutsch from Guide Studio, and I have...
Hi, I'm Molly Meininger from Guide Studio as well.
Sorry. I am the project manager. Guide Studio is a multidisciplinary brand communications and wayfinding firm. We specialize in design for people with places. So we engage you with your place, and that's kind of our goal. So you can see some of the places that we have worked with on this slide. So for the city of Richmond, we are engaged with you all to do a city brand. Brand is so much more than just a logo. It's a symbolic embodiment of all that you have to offer. So we like to say that your brand is here, and we're just here to uncover it. And so that's what we've been doing actually for the past couple of months. So why does your place need to be branded? When your city invests in a brand, it creates a platform that helps you make decisions. It addresses challenges and the things that you want to achieve. So it's consistent representation for your city. It supports economic development. It gives you a growing sense of community pride, and then also reputation management. So what has our process been? Like Mayor said, we have been engaged with you guys since February we came here. And so we've asked our client team to create a steering committee and a stakeholder committee. So the steering committee is a smaller group of staff members and different organization representation from the community. And they're with us throughout this whole process. So they are kind of helping us through, and we're guiding them through this process. And we came up with these brand objectives. So these are not ours. These are what they all came up with. So we want to create a brand that people will recognize and love for the next at least next 20 years, right? We want to hopefully make it longer. Is unique and appeals to all ages, supports an increase in population, helps pull people from the interstate exits, brings cohesiveness to the departments, which actually we met with the department heads today to make sure that we pull that through to all the departments, and then encourages additional physical connections within the community. So part of our process has been to, first, we review current brand and marketing materials that you all have in place right now. And then we did a discovery workshop with the steering committee. So that's that smaller group that's gonna stay with us through this process. Then we also did a larger stakeholder group, and we met with them and did some workshop activities. And then we also did some focus group meetings with some smaller groups and some minority groups as well. And then we did a walking tour, and again, it was February, so it was very cold. You can see there's some snow on the ground, and we're actually gonna go out and get some better pictures now that the weather is better. Then we did a driving tour. We drove all around Richmond, saw your parks, went through Earlham and saw the schools and everything. So we saw all that you guys have to offer. From that and all the information that we collect from the steering committee and the stakeholder groups and the research that we do, we create what we call your brand strategy in the framework. And this is a document. We'll kind of review some of the pieces, but
This is going to be something that the communications department and hopefully you guys too will look at for years to come and kind of guide you through some of your decisions. And then we also do some public surveys. So we did a perception survey that had 844 responses, and then we did a public image survey that had 100 responses. And a little bit later, we'll talk about some of those results. And then we're back here discussing brand implementation with the client team. So not only do we give you a brand strategy and then a beautiful design, but we're gonna help you launch that into the world. We're not just gonna walk away after it's all designed. We're gonna help you guys figure out what's the best ways to get it out there, work with the departments and how that they can use it. So we give you guys the tools so that you can do these things on your own. So let's go over some brand strategy highlights. So target our audiences. So when we talk to our cities, they say, well, everybody's our target audience, right? We want to attract everybody. And that's great, and we know that you do, but we can't talk to everybody. So what we do is we really need to distill down to what are those target audiences so that we can really hone in on who we're talking to. And it doesn't mean that we're not talking to the other people, but it just presents that message in a way that those target audiences can understand. So we came up with 4 target audiences, and again, we didn't do this. This was the steering committee and stakeholder groups that helped us. And so it's existing residents, the small business owners, emerging professionals, and then the creatives, which you have an arts component to your city, and that's super important to you and the mayor. And so we want to make sure that we're attracting those people and talking to those people. And then distinct advantages. So these are high-level main points that you want to communicate about your brand. And again, it's not to say that we're not talking about some of the other things, but these are the things that rose to the surface. So opportunity knocks. Richmond is a city on the rise, offering expanding employment opportunities, diverse and appealing housing, from contemporary urban lofts to classic single-family homes, and enhanced transportation networks. And I won't read the whole thing to you, but the next one is a community that cares. In Richmond, kindness and community spirit define daily life. And we heard this over and over and over again in our discovery meetings, that if somebody needed something, there was a neighbor to help out. Or if somebody was raising funds for a certain issue, people are backing it up. So we heard that the community backs each other and cares a lot. History is just the beginning. Even a brief visit to Richmond reveals a city filled with history. Again, we heard this over and over with jazz and the rose gardens and all of these things that are a part of Richmond that we don't want to forget, and we still want to pay homage to them, but you may be moving forward from them. So we don't want to leave them behind, but we want to make sure that they're still a part of you. And then a location with options. Richmond is ideally positioned at the crossroads of connectivity and accessibility. And it's just talking about your location. You guys have a really great location to a lot of bigger cities and many airports, and travel is easy from here. So it's a good location. Positioning statement. So a positioning statement is a simple and concise internal statement. So this is for the city to use, not putting out there in public. And the positioning statement, the diagram of it is using the audience, the guiding principles, the distinct advantage, and the end benefits. And so the positioning statement that we came up with for you guys is, in Richmond, longtime residents, emerging professionals, small business owners, and creatives find more than just community. They find connection, opportunity, and support. Rooted deeply in value of resilience, creativity, and genuine care, the city actively cultivates environments that inspire growth, spark ideas, and encourage meaningful relationships. Here, history informs the future. Challenges drive progress, and each person's success contributes directly to a vibrant and evolving city. Richmond isn't just a place to live, it's a place to thrive together. So we're hoping that the staff internally uses this and thinks about it and posts it, and not post it publicly, but post it internally so they can think about it and make decisions. So you have your audiences in there and the reasons that you guys are doing certain things. So the survey results. So these offer key insights into how the community sees your brand today, what they value, what they question, and what they hope for. So the input was gathered through a public perception survey and then a public image survey, which helped ground the brand in the real experiences and perspectives of your community. So this first one was given before we did any of the brand strategy. So you can see the demographics, 844 respondents, 76% were residents, 53% over the age of 45, and 50% were residents for 20 plus years. The city personality words that kind of rose to the surface were people, community, history, and then city. And then the top 5 assets were city parks and natural spaces at 60%, the Richmond Depot, 43%, higher education presence, 42%, arts and culture was 40%, and then rich history is 36%. And then some of the brand statements, and again, this was done prior, do you agree with these statements? So the kind of top 2 or 3 were Richmond's location makes it easy to access nearby cities and destinations. Richmond is investing in downtown revitalization and public spaces. And then Richmond's history and heritage are an important part of identity today. So you can understand, looking back at our strategy, the distinct advantages come from some of these things. And then the lower 2 that we love to work on, Richmond offers a strong sense of community and belonging. We definitely hope that the brand helps with that. And Richmond is an ideal place for emerging professionals to live and grow. We want to make sure that we're helping with that as well. So distinct advantages, number 1, location with options. Number 2, opportunity knocks. And number 3, history is just the beginning. That's what resonated with folks. Community quality, very high quality, was low on the list. High quality was 25%, and then neither high nor low were 47%. And then also for businesses, we see, again, another high, neither high nor low, so kind of in the middle there. All right, so brand look highlights. So I'm going to turn it over to Molly now.
Thank you, Erica. So taking all of this information and the research that we've done, we have worked with the steering committee to then develop a visual identity for Richmond. And we came up with the idea that there is a bridge in every journey. And so for that, we came up with this logo mark that represents a welcoming, kind, strong, historic, supportive, hardworking, authentic, and comfortable Richmond. You can start to see that with that arch shape of the typography, showing that strong sense of community. And then we start to pull in some of those arts and historic elements with the rose garden kind of abstracted above the Indiana. One thing about this palette is we wanted to show how it fits in with the city and all of the different architectural elements already in the downtown. So as you can see with the color palette that we have developed, it really pulls from what is Richmond. So we pulled from that beautiful blue sky, we have that use of the red, and we have the use of the yellow. And you can start to see how it balances itself within the mark. Something that's really important within a mark is showing that it not only works in full color, but also works in just one color for different uses. So as you can see, we start to strip it down to maybe it's just in the yellow or it is just in the red, showing how strong and dynamic it is. Another element we wanted to honor was the history and the different parts and pieces found within Richmond, and you can see those within those badges down below. We have both the star, we have inspiration from the jazz with the trumpet, and then we also have the honoring of the roses. And so these marks and badges can start to be implemented in different ways within the branding system. Something that's really fun about these marks is it doesn't have to be just the logo. We can start to break it down and have some fun with it by creating different kind of compositions with patterns with these different graphic elements. So one thing we heard a lot in our research was this idea that art meets industry. And so you can really start to see how that plays together with the use of the trumpet, the piano, the star, and the rose. So this would give different opportunities for maybe, say, banner systems or different ways we can start to implement it. We also recognize the opportunity to maybe downscale the logo, so it's just the R in Indiana, just to provide different opportunities in regards to how we implement this brand. And then as we were exploring, we noticed as we were going on our tour, these beautiful tiles and brick patterns found throughout the rest of downtown. And we wanted to create these patterns that represented it. So we have our star, we have an abstracted rose, and then we also have our piano, all of which honoring the history of Richmond. And then you can start to see we wanted to explore how would we implement this brand into real physical items. So we can do this in items such as a tote bag, we can do it on city official buildings on their glass, and then we talked about possibly incorporating it onto city official vehicles. And then it doesn't just stop there. We wanted to expand upon it, and this is an example of the banner system of how that graphic patterning can start to play out. Maybe this is a series in downtown. There also is the opportunity to create water bottles and different elements for city officials. And then maybe there is opportunity to put it on city official workwear and also mugs. And then I thought it was very important to then demonstrate how this mark stands in comparison to the surrounding cities in Indiana. As you can see, it stands very proud in comparison, and it's very a clean and refreshing mark. Turn it back over to Erica.
All right, so our next steps are, like I said, we are here for implementation planning, and then we are going to continue with our design development. So that means giving you guys templates, a brand style guide on how to use the templates, how to use the logo, a brand launch kit. So how do we get the brand out into the world? And then we will do training with the staff members so that they know how to use it and are fully equipped with starting to use it on their own. So I think we're here for any questions or anything, if you have any. Thank you.
Questions from council or comments?
I like the mug.
The mug is always what people like.
Yep.
Any comments?
Looks good to me.
Yeah.
Looks good.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I'll have Lindsay email that to all the council members now that it's been made public. You can have it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is nice.
I like it.
If he's got anything else. Anything else, Mr. Mayor?
No, I'm good.
Mr. President,
Mr. Engel?
I wanted to ask, Chief is leaving. I thought the fireworks were great. I thought it was a great crowd and a good time. I just wonder about the intersection of East Main and 22nd. When the fireworks end, and even before that, it is pretty much chaos up there with, kids running across the street and scooters and cars trying to make a left turn off of 22nd. And I just wonder if we could get a police officer out there. Just a suggestion for next year. I know we used to have officers, but there was nobody out there, and people just flood across there, and cars and motorcycles come roaring up and down the street.
Kind of wonky with the.
I just wonder if there might be a chance in the future, just a suggestion.
I think that's a good suggestion. Right.
Hooray.
Mr. Burkhart?
Mr. President, I have a question for the mayor. On May the 8th, we had received an email titled Council Members Budgeting Seminar sent by the controller, where we were invited to attend this seminar that was taking place on Friday, May the 16th. I was sent a post on June the 18th that was reflecting what the mayor had posted in a private group update. Jerry, Justin, and everyone on the Finance Committee refused to attend the state's webinar that we had on Zoom a few weeks ago. That presented an update on all state laws and how they'll affect every city's 2026 budget, not just Richmond's. So he, speaking from a point of hearsay, not real information, just thought and then it names the group, would want to know only Ann Taylor and Larry Parker attended the webinar from council. And on that date, I had spoken with the 3 other members from the Finance Committee if anybody had quote-unquote refused to attend the state's webinar. And so my question for the mayor was, can you provide a note of where anyone refused to attend that webinar?
Just that you did not attend, and I know President of Council was disappointed, made comments.
The president of city council made comments?
Yes, to the administration, yes. No one from Finance Committee came. We spent all the money for the webinar, and nobody came.
So, but this,
So I will redact my post. If you refuse, you just didn't come.
well, so it's inaccurate. That is inaccurate.
Can redact that then. It's
That
fine.
we refused. And so, and this was a recorded webinar, and so not speaking for any of the 3 other members of the Finance Committee, I have a job. So not everything can be attended, but needed to be seen at a recorded time. Do you understand that, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, but that was probably one of the most important webinars for the upcoming budget season.
So the webinar
Everybody
in
needed.
person was far more important than what would be seen on the recording, Mr. Mayor?
I don't know.
So when
I haven't
you,
seen the recording, and if they capture everything correctly, I don't know.
so this is just one of the issues, and I'm happy to share this into public record, but I've seen a post from you. Unlike some people, I don't need public accolades for doing my job. I did not post a picture of all the limbs I picked up around the neighborhood yesterday filling the truck. That was posted on June the 20th. In this group, there was a county commissioner that was threatened with their personal safety in the group that you were posting in, that's also owned by the president of the Board of Works, in which you appointed. That also, there is a post in there criticizing our Parks Department representative here, how she's worked there for 10 years, and so on. And so
I can't comment on anybody else's posts.
I
I can't control Facebook any more
no,
than you can.
and
But I'll retract my statement.
but what kind of message is it sending, Mr. Mayor, that
There's
the
a lot of stuff on social media.
let me finish.
Nobody
Let
likes.
let me finish. What kind of message is it sending to the public, the taxpayers, in which they hear these presentations about culture and they see you commenting or and will soon be redacted about refusal of members of this council? And what does that say to everybody that is seeing this show unfold, Mr. Mayor?
I can't comment about what other people think or say. Nobody can.
So I'm not speaking for anybody else up here, but we've got business to do.
Yes, we do.
And I don't think
To it.
it starts with the leadership of the city.
And council, and finance committee.
That did not refuse to attend the meeting that you said we did.
Okay. Let's move on.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
now that that has been brought up, I would like to say that I did watch the webinar. I believe it's 3.5 hours long, and I've watched it twice to try to
Yes.
clean everything out of it. And when you talk about dedication, I drove 6.5 hours to be at this meeting tonight. So I think the dedication of council is here. Thank you.
I was on a field trip with my granddaughter, and I sent a memo to everybody on there, and I did watch the webinar, just for the record.
Any additional comments?
I think it would be great to get back to business.
Report of the Board of Public Works and Safety is in your packets. That's the minutes from June the 5th. Do you have any comments or questions? Reports from department heads, we have none. Miscellaneous business, we have an ordinance on first reading. Madam
Mr.
Clerk?
President,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that we suspend the rules and read ordinance 32, 2025 by title only.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to suspend the rules and read ordinance number 32, 2025 by title only. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Ordinance number 32, 2025, an appropriation ordinance amending the 2025 budget.
I don't think, do we have someone to speak for that? Thank you.
Evening, council.
Good evening.
Alex Cox, Deputy Controller. Ordinance 32, 2025 is the Richmond Fire Pension Board is requesting an additional $12,000 to be appropriated to account 8801-0113-301-3110 to cover pre-employment physicals. Short story on this was approved at the last council meeting, but we did not wait the 10 days in between to fully approve that. So DLGF said we have to redo the entire process. Essentially, we just need to wait till the 7/21 meeting to fully approve this.
Any questions? Back to
finance.
Back to you folks.
There you go.
That's right. Any ordinances on second reading? No. Any unfinished business to come before us?
Move for adjournment.
Second.
All in favor for adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you.
Don't forget about RP&L.
RP&L in 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Oh, Lord,
5 minutes.
mercy.
3 minutes.
Knock me down and call me shorty.
You are watching Whitewater Government Television, WGTV, Channel 11, part of the Whitewater Community Television family of stations.
Good evening, and welcome to the Richmond Power and Light meeting for Monday, July the 7th. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Doug Goss.
Here.
Lucinda Wright.
Present.
Bill Engel.
Here.
Larry Parker.
Here.
Ann Taylor.
Here.
Gary Turner.
Here.
Jane Bumbelow.
Here.
Justin Burkhart.
Here.
And Jerry Purcell.
Here.
All are in favor.
Thank you.
All are here.
We're not in favor of being here.
We're in favor of
Yeah.
being here.
All right. All right. Next is the approval of the minutes from our June 2nd meeting. You've had time to review those now. Are there any questions, comments, changes?
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the June 2nd RP&L meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of the minutes. Bills to be approved.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Parker.
Finance Committee has reviewed the bills and moved for approval of $9,414,933.10.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the bills for $9,404,933, $9,414,933.10. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. In this section, remarks from the chairman, I'd like to ask Councilor Turner to discuss our trip to Louisiana.
I'll be more than glad to. It was a conference that was, how shall I put it? A lot of unanswered questions with respect to where things are going in the energy business, mainly because we are, as we all know, experiencing some dramatic economic changes in our country. People are uncertain as to how they should proceed with major investments. Everything's being slowed down. One of the highlights for me was I attended the session on nuclear power and was just delighted to learn that it is renewed. It's going to probably become one of our major sources of power again. We are in a position to put plants in place now much more quickly than we could historically. And interestingly, they've discovered that they can actually go in and refurbish plants that had been taken out of commission and extend their life, if you can believe it, by another 70 years.
That's awesome.
So for me, that was the highlight of the event. I'm looking forward to nuclear power again.
That was definitely one of the pieces of conversation, also electric vehicles. And then, as Mr. Turner said, we also heard how the politics are affecting electricity in our country as well. So we appreciate the opportunity to go to Louisiana and learn more about power and what we can bring back here. Report by the general manager.
All right. Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Tonight, we have one item that requires your approval, and that is a request to go out to bid for one new 2025 or newer Class 7 71-foot working height bucket truck for the line department as previously approved in the budget. The trade will be Unit 30, pictured here. It's a 2009 F750. Because of its age, in about 3 years, we will have to recertify the boom. And again, this is our largest boom in the fleet. Again, it reaches 71 feet. Because of that recertification, the initial estimates are between $25,000 and $30,000. Even after we do that, we're still left with a 16-year-old vehicle. So we try to keep our vehicles 10 years. This one is at 16 years. By the time we get it in another couple of years, of course, it's going to be about 18 years old. So we did have this one programmed to be replaced, placing the bid this year for it to arrive in a couple of years. So we're asking to go out to bid on that this evening.
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to authorize the general manager to receive bids on one new 2025 Class 7 71-foot working height bucket truck for the line department. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much. The next part of the evening, I wanted to give you an update on the 2025 cost of service rate study. each month, we talk a little bit about something, and I say this is going to be part of the rate study. So I thought, being mid-year, hopefully we're going to be having some results from this, and then in the coming months, I thought it'd be a good time just to kind of refresh everyone's memory as to what this is all about. So what is a cost of service study, a rate study? Basically, it calculates the total revenue and electric utility needs to cover all expenses while considering future growth and existing needs, which includes operating costs, capital investments, and reasonable reserves for emergencies. Again, there's a line left off here. If we were an IOU or an investor-owned utility, we would have return on investment for investors. But as a municipally owned utility, we do not have to do that. We only need to have enough to cover our costs to operate the utility. So the study allocates the costs into different customer classes based upon factors like energy consumption, demand, and customer-related costs. Specifically, how much does it cost to serve those customers based upon system maintenance, rebuilds, and et cetera. And each year when we go through the budget, we have a lot of different lines, and the reason we do that is we do differentiate different types of work to different customer classes. So over the 5 years that we're doing work, and then we do these studies at the end, we know a better idea of how much time and money we're spending on our different customer classifications. So why are we doing this? Well, it's important to periodically assess whether the existing rates are sufficient to recover costs and margins to help us remain financially sound and promote equity among customer classes. In 2021, the order given to us by the IURC required RP&L to complete a cost of service study every 5 years. I'm assuming this directive was given to us because previously we had gone over 15 years between cost of service studies. When we exited the IURC in 2022, as part of that process, the RP&L Board passed a resolution stating that future cost of service studies will be performed in increments no more than 5 years apart to help keep up with inflationary changes impacting RP&L's operational costs. So in essence, the board adopted that requirement from the IURC, even though we were no longer in the IURC, to do these studies every 5 years. So the last study was wrapped up in 2020 and implemented in 2021. So this puts us at that 5-year mark. So some goals of this current cost of service study. First one is system maintenance. And basically, what is the system maintenance? This is our daily operations. What does it take to operate day to day? Maintaining our infrastructure, maintaining our employees, training, safety, capital equipment, the things we talk about every year throughout the budget process. I have an asterisk on maintaining infrastructure because in 2024, one of the things that was in our budget was a study by an outside firm to take a look at some of our large power transformers that were installed in the 1980s so we can get a feel for their health, if there were some improvements we can make to those to make them last a little longer, and determine whether or not they needed replaced. The average lifespan for a large power transformer is about 40 to 50 years. I have several listed here that date back to 1974 up through 1991 that will need replaced over the next 10 years. So, and these are not inexpensive. These are probably $1.5 to $2 million a pop. So we're looking at these. We have ideas on how we can, in some cases, help reduce costs. We can, for example, there's one that we can take out of service and have it rebuilt and then have it go back into service in another substation. So instead of buying new, we can rebuild in a couple of scenarios. So we're looking at every option right now, but these are some of our big concerns moving forward. And of course, capital equipment replacement, we talked about switching our focus to street lights to LED after we complete the metering project. We've talked about some substation issues in the past as well. The next goal is focuses on environmental regulations. In our last cost of service study, we added and adopted rates we added 2 reserve accounts, one for the coal combustion residual project, which we call the CCR project, which is the coal ash remediation project that's been lingering for 10 years now. And at some point in the future, we don't know when, and we hope it's a long time off, but the decommissioning of the Whitewater Valley Station, the coal-fired plant. So those accounts were set up in through the last rate study, and they have been accumulating dollars, and especially the CCR project, it's a good thing that this has drug out a little bit because we have built a nice cash balance that will go towards that project. And speaking of that project, I know I gave an update on it a few months ago, but there has been some activity. Of course, we continue to follow the CCR reporting requirements, monitoring wells and things, and all of that is on our website. Recently, IEDM has indicated they are collecting responses to our permit application. We submitted our permit application in August of 2023. We have been working with our bond advisor just now that we know they are starting to look at our permit, just to look at options and next steps for timing purposes. The amount that is set aside and that we're setting aside in our reserve account will then be shifted towards bond payments. So we won't be asking for more money for the CCR project. The dollars will just be shifted towards making payments in the future. And then there's just a few housekeeping items we're working on, and I'm going to go off cost of service for 1 second because you'll be seeing this maybe next month. We acquired, as you are aware, 2 parcels over the past few years, actually about through the last 5 years, adjacent to RP&L for this CCR project. They're on the left side of the picture up there. The one is just 1/5 of an acre there along the Elks. What we need to do is have those consolidated into the parent parcel and have the zoning be consistent because they are all 3 zoned differently. So just a housekeeping cleanup item, and wanted to bring it to your attention tonight because we've engaged Gordon Moore to help us go through the process. So I'm going to get back to cost of service now. Sorry, but it was a good time to bring it up. The third item that we would like to look at through this study is rebuild and maintain reserve accounts. Inflationary increases that began in 2022, right after we finished our last rate study, have impacted our operating cash balances, primarily due to dramatic increases in materials and supplies. I talked about this in the past. Transformers that used to cost $2,500 now cost $7,500, things like that. We are starting to see things go back down, but over the last several years, that has impacted us. We did have the premature failure of some 69 kV breakers, and we used some of the substation reserve dollars for that. And then the unexpected failure of the intertie transformer late in 2024. A large amount of the financials tonight reflects the initial payments on those new key intertie transformers. So anyway, that's something that is key, that we are able to maintain reserves for emergencies like this. As a result, we would like to come back in the future with some cash balance or some cash reserve policies as goals. And as we move forward, determine how we tackle some of those transformers through, whether that's through a reserve account, like we have done for CCR. So again, things that we're studying with our rate consultant. And finally, future growth. For example, the Midwest Industrial Park, we built a new substation, and that came online right after I started at RP&L, and I think Wednesday is my 7-year anniversary. It's hard to believe it's been 7 years.
Congratulations.
So that substation was designed to facilitate a second transformer for growth in the industrial park. We work frequently with the EDC on projects and prospects. So that's something we're working with them now to determine if that's what we need to do now. But the existing park, as you know, has been filling up, and the city has acquired additional industrial land for growth. The square that I have highlighted is the portion of that additional land that is in our service territory, so there is the potential for a lot of new load to be added. And then finally, on future growth considerations, one of the things that we probably need to do as a community and something we've been studying is the addition of a new intertie substation, number one, for additional growth, especially for the industrial park, but number two, to provide us that redundancy if something were to happen to one of our other intertie substations. We only have two key other ones that provide power for the city. And then this one, I don't have a puzzle piece for. These are just the others. These are things that we would be putting in the rate tariff that we've also discussed. The IMPA large user rate, programs like the prepay program that we've talked about briefly. We have the technology and the ability to do a roundup program now. You know, some utilities allow you to round up your bill to the nearest dollar, and then we could use those funds or maybe provide those to the trustee to help folks that are down on their luck. And then add some of the changes we've made since the last rate study and new tariff, like the IMPA green power rate, and we had a couple other minor changes over the last couple of years as well. So we're trying to fit all these pieces of the puzzle together through this rate study. Again, it takes into account the community's growth since our last rate study, and since the last one, we have had significant growth, which is a good thing, and looking at future growth as well, and trying to find that balance. So where do we stand? Well, data has been provided to our consultant. We've had another meeting with them recently as they've started reviewing that data and asking us questions. So over the next several months, it'll be busy for all of us, and then once I have more information, I'll be talking with you about that. So that's the why and the where and everything on the rate study, and just wanted to give you an update of what we've been working on and some background, and I would entertain any questions that you have.
Questions you have for Mr. Foster? Very thorough.
Yeah, but, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Engel.
Before we adjourn, I did want to compliment the RP&L staff. We had that major windstorm, rainstorm a couple of weeks ago, and we had, in my neighborhood, had a limb that came down and crashed against a garage, but was hanging in the alley, and it was definitely a dangerous situation. I contacted Mr. Foster, and within an hour, they came and cut it up and moved it. So I want to compliment your staff. That was
great. They're good.
Well appreciated, yeah.
We appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Purcell.
Yes, I had similar experiences in contacting RP&L post-storm, et cetera, and their efficiency is very impressive. You run a very good railroad there.
Hey, we've got a great team. So
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I would
Great
like to
leader.
I would like to say congratulations again on 7 years.
Yeah,
And we're very happy that you're with us, and thank you for the good work that you do.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Mr. Goss. Were you going to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
I thought this was dramatic.
You are watching Whitewater Government Television, WGTV, Channel 11, part of the Whitewater Community Television